Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Text Messages Resurrected. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. We're glad to have you joining us once again. It's Thursday evening, February 21st, 2019. And we're broadcasting out of Elk River, Minnesota. Happy to be here. We have had some blizzard conditions lately, so I've been spending a lot of time shoveling the snow. Definitely requires an immense energy expenditure, but by and large, we're inside, we're warm, and we're ready to hit the ground running. Now we are probably going to debut another show in the near future. Hopefully it doesn't signify the end of text messages, but most likely we'll probably just try to run them parallel and see what happens. I mean, it might signify just of great things happening, or it might be a total disaster. But based on ratings for text messages resurrected, we really can't expect any way that it can be any worse. So, I mean, hell, we could probably run any kind of show we want to, and it'll be great again. I mean, we will maintain G-rated programming, though. That's one thing that we definitely reiterate and emphasize. You know, like as far as swearing and tackling disturbing topics, that's really not something that we're all about. I mean, more importantly, we just want to be uplifting and entertaining and informative as well, and thought-provoking. See, not everything we say on here is absolute 100% unequivocal fact. And sometimes I say things that I don't mean to say, but it comes out wrong, and then it's just blatantly false. So you always want to keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want to believe everything you hear. Even if we were well-meaning and all that good fun stuff, the train can always fall off the rails, so they say. Now what we want to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen, is the small intestines. So you have, in your entire digestive system, you have your teeth, your tonsils, your esophagus, your stomach, your pylori sphincter. Then you get into your small intestines. Then you get into your large intestines, which is also your colon. Then you get into your rectum, your anus, and you expel the fecal matter. So, the small intestines is between the stomach and the large intestines, also known as the colon. One of the reasons why the small intestines is considered the small intestines is because its diameter is only about an inch or so, and the colon's diameter is closer to 3 inches. So it's definitely, as you can see on this illustration, all these little tubes that look like little worms, that's the small intestines. Big one that goes around, that's the large intestines. And then the big bean-shaped thing is the stomach. So, small intestines are generally 3 to 5 meters long. Of course, the larger the individual is, the longer their small intestines are. So the surface area due to folds and villi and microvilli is around 30 square meters. So the villi are little fingers that poke in, or that, you know, they're all on the surface. They're just fingers. And then on those fingers, there's a lot of microvillis too. So those suck up all the nutrients, or they try to anyways. Protein, carbohydrates, the fats, you know, the lipids and the amino acids. And then they try to get a lot of the vitamins and minerals. So they're extremely important. There's 3 parts of the small intestines. There's the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. So it starts at the duodenum. Duodenum is C-shaped. It's about 20-25 centimeters long. It receives the gastric partially digested food from the stomach, along with the pancreatic juices, which are also the enzymes, and the liver, which is the bile. The enzymes break down the protein, and the bile emulsifies the fat into further breaks it down. And the duodenum also contains glands that secrete mucus-like alkaline containing bicarbonate that neutralizes the stomach acid. Because if you just dumped a bunch of stomach acid in your intestines, it could very well burn up the inner layer. A lot of times if you get acid reflux, it's usually stomach acid coming up into your esophagus and possibly into your mouth too. Vomiting is essentially what was in your stomach and it's coming back up. So the duodenum contains the glands that secretes the mucus-rich alkaline that contains the bicarbonate that neutralizes stomach acid. So the jejunum, which is the middle of the small intestines, it's about 2.5 meters long. It contains the circular folds and the villi that have the very large surface area. So they're there to break down the amino acids, the fats, and the proteins. And in that section, they're absorbed and sent into the bloodstream. So when you get your vitamins and minerals and your protein and carbohydrates, amino acids, and lipids, fats, they get in your blood, then they're transported to the cells or the tissues that need them, that need the energy or need the minerals to do whatever functionality they want to do. For example, your thyroid wants the iodine. So when the iodine gets in your blood, the blood ships it up to your thyroid takes up the iodine. It also takes up tyrosine, which is the amino acid. And then with that, it can secrete its hormones that do whatever it wants to do. So the ileum is after the jejunum, and it's right before the colon. There's an ileocal valve, which ensures that the digested food only travels in one direction. So it's not going to come up from the large intestine or the colon back into the small intestine. Once it leaves the small intestine into the colon, also known as large intestine, it continues to move along the path, which is what valves are generally for. So the ileum, about 3 meters long, it absorbs vitamin B12 and bile acids and some of the remaining nutrients. It still contains a lot of the villi and microvilli that the jejunum has as well. So the pancreatic enzymes and bile enter the small intestine upon response to the hormones. Cholecystokinin, which is the presence of nutrients, and then secretin, which is the presence of acid. So your duodenum, that part of your small intestine, releases that to the pancreas, so that the pancreas, that's how they communicate it, at least as far as our current science interprets. So your small intestines send out these hormones, your pancreas, and your pancreas can send the enzymes and the bile into the small intestines in that first section there. So after the stomach acid is neutralized, most of the nutrients are absorbed in the jejunum, with the exception of iron, which is absorbed in the duodenum, folate, which is duodenum and the jejunum. Folate is also vitamin B9. And vitamin B12 and bile salts are absorbed in the final section of the small intestines, close to the terminal ileum. Now, one of the things that's right now, you may have heard of the appendix before, which is an absolute critical component of any human body, and everybody needs one. And if they remove it, basically their life takes a nosedive. But the appendix is actually located in the large intestines, right after the small intestines. So technically, it's not part of the small intestines. It's located right after the ileocal valve. And the large intestines actually have all of the gut flora that you've heard about. So in the cecum, that's where the gut flora, the microbiomes, hang out. So the small intestines, though, if people have lactose intolerance, the reason why they do that is because the small intestines do not produce the lactase. So it's not a part of your gut microbiota that hangs out in the large intestines. It's just because the small intestines are unable to create it. So then once it gets into your large intestines, then it starts to ferment from the bacteria that it reacts with, and then it can potentially create a lot of flatulence and projectile diarrhea. So one of the interesting things about the small intestines, the passage of food takes roughly 3 to 6 hours. So you probably notice generally when you eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, and maybe a late night snack. So you usually, if you give yourself 4 to 5 hours, that's a pretty good number there, because your stomach can potentially store food for up to 5 hours, and your intestines can hold it for another 5 hours too, potentially. But usually it's 6 hours and the entire system is done. You know, if you fast and you don't eat that often, yeah, it may hold the food longer. See, all of your internal organs for digestion are muscles. They're unconscious muscles. You're not controlling them. So when you consume food often, you're exercising those muscles. So the more food you eat, the more efficient you get at eating the food. So if you fast all the time, eventually the muscles aren't going to get worked out much, and then you're not going to be able to eat a whole lot of food. It's like lifting weights, picking up weights and setting them down. You progressively adapt to the greater load. And your body does the same thing too. If you keep shoveling in food, it's going to be more efficient at breaking it down and reggaeing it through your body. You know, like the little waves, the muscle spasms or the muscle contractions. So, as soon as the nutrients get into the blood goes to the liver right away. It filters out all the garbage, and goes to kidneys too. Filters out the garbage there. Fats are transported into the lymphatic system. Then they go into the bloodstream. So the fats are completely digested in the small intestines. The bacteria, the microbiomes in your large intestines, those mostly feed on carbohydrates or simple sugars. I mean, so technically you shouldn't be getting any fats in large intestine. Now, sometimes people can do a stool test and see what's getting in there and everything too, and determine if they have some type of digestive deficiency. You can also get something called an endoscopic camera, but you basically swallow it, you wear this thing around your belt, and then it takes pictures and it transmits them wirelessly to this device. So it might take a few hundred pictures, but it's a pretty good deal. It's something you definitely would want to look into if you feel you have digestive issues. Well, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to put a conclusion to this show. We thank you for joining us at Text Messages Resurrected, and we hope you will be back in the very near future. Thank you very much.